Ricky Stenhouse Jr. wins his 12th start in the Daytona 500, and Kyle Busch and Joey Logano suffer a bitter defeat. Let's talk about the 65th running of the Great American Race. Hello everybody, welcome to Dirty Air Daytona 500 edition. I'm your host Alex Lambert, and let's talk about the 65th running of the Great American Race. The Daytona 500 goes to Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in his 12th attempt at the race. Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski, and Kyle Busch all suffer heartbreaking losses. Their race kind of fell apart on them. Let's get into all of it. We got to start out by talking about your winner of the Daytona 500, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. This is his third career win, his second win at Daytona. He won the Daytona July race back in 2017, and he's been known over the last few years to be a bit of a plate racer. We can take a quick look here at the finish. You see Joey Logano is right behind Ricky Stenhouse as the wreck happens. The caution comes out, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. got a decent push from Christopher Bell to get the lead and go right by Joey Logano. Joey Logano had nobody behind him, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr., with that caution being thrown, won his Daytona 500. He actually said he didn't even know if he had enough fuel to get to the end if it wasn't for that caution. I think he run out of gas on the front stretch coming to the finish line, so definitely playing it really close there for Ricky Stenhouse Jr. But I want to talk a little bit about Ricky Stenhouse Jr. as a driver, because he won at Talladega in 2017, and Talladega is Daytona's sister track, and he made the right moves at those races. We kind of started to figure out, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., he was really good in the Xfinity Series. I believe he won 2 Xfinity championships back in the day, and then of course won that Talladega race in 2017 with his first win, and then later on that same year won the Daytona July race. I believe that was 2 restrictor plate or super speedway race wins in a row. So we kind of all got in our mind, hey, this guy's really good, really aggressive, but talented at these types of racetracks, which some drivers are and some drivers not so much. But we kind of knew Ricky Stenhouse Jr. was one of those guys that typically find themselves up front, and that didn't really change. But I want to point to 2018 in the Coke Zero 400 at Daytona, the Daytona summer race in 2014, because that was one where I saw a character change from Ricky Stenhouse Jr. He was really aggressive in that race and made a ton of enemies. Nobody wanted to work with him after that at the plate races. He wrecked the entire field. He wrecked like 20-something cars that race. It was a disaster. I remember when he blew a tire in that race, everybody cheered because they knew that was hurting him, because he had tore up so many race cars. It was just a really bad night by Ricky Stenhouse Jr. I remember he had to get a police escort out of the racetrack, a really bad look for him, and I was able to see, and I think everybody was, the maturity level at those types of races go up. I mean, he didn't do that again. We went to Talladega later that year, did not do that. And in 2019, 2020, those years after that, following that, he was less aggressive. He was less aggressive, especially at the beginning of the race. Now, today, obviously, he was aggressive at the end of the Daytona 500, but Stenhouse didn't cause any big crashes at any part of this race. Hasn't really caused any big crashes at any portion of a plate race or a super speedway race in the last few years. And I think that says a lot that he was able to learn from that incident in 2018. And he's come close to winning a few of these races at Daytona and Talladega. Always runs up front. Got caught up in a few other drivers' mistakes. Caught a big break there with the caution flag, obviously, with nobody behind Logano. A couple of cautions really put him in the correct position. But Ricky Stenhouse Jr. was able to capitalize, get his third career win, and get his first Daytona 500 win in his 12th start. He's come close a few times. He's been up there in the running a few times to win this race, and this year he was finally able to get it done. So it was exciting to see him finally get that. I'm happy for him and glad that he was able to grow as a driver. He didn't cause any of those big crashes that we saw at the end of the race, so congratulations to Ricky Stenhouse Jr. We'll see where this season can go for him. He showed a lot of speed. JTG Doherty Racing showed a lot of speed at the end of last year. Be interesting to see what these guys can do for the rest of the season. We've seen how a Daytona 500 can really ramp up a team and help out a team. Great examples, Michael McDowell in 2021. So we'll have to continue to see how that goes. Although we had Ricky Stenhouse Jr. edge out to win this race, he edged out Joey Logano. A heartbreaking loss for Joey Logano. Joey Logano finishes second today. We'll take one more look here at the finish. You see Logano, you see the wreck happen, and then Logano just fades back because he had nobody behind him to push. Therefore, Logano finishes second at the moment of caution. He was second at the moment of caution. Christopher Bell was third, and Joey Logano finishes second in the Daytona 500. Obviously, he was heartbroken. He knew that he had lost a big race. He was going for his second Daytona 500 win. That is a heartbreaking loss for Joey Logano. If you're a Joey Logano fan, you're throwing up. And if you're a Kyle Busch fan, you're really feeling it. Let's talk about that for just a moment, because it seemed like Kyle Busch had everything in order. He was leading the race, had teammate Austin Dillon behind him, had William Byron in third place, stopping Joey Logano and stopping those Fords from being able to get to the front. I mean, I could not believe that actually worked, but I couldn't believe how good of a job William Byron was doing from the third position to stop those Fords from being able to get up there and cause a run. There was a few times Logano, Keselowski tried to get together to form a run, and William Byron knew how to just move right up there and stop them without causing a wreck or without slowing down the leaders. That was a great job by William Byron. Great job being, playing teammate with his other manufacturers, and I think that deserves a props from William Byron. So really good to see those Chevrolets working together. That was going very well until I believe it was 3 laps to go. Daniel Suarez blew a tire, which Daniel Suarez wrecked Kyle Busch in the dual races on Thursday and potentially cost him, at least hurt his chances of winning it, when he blew a tire today in the Daytona 500 with 3 laps to go. The caution came out. That shuffled everything up. And then, of course, you see here, like I said, after that, everything really fell apart for the RCR team. Obviously, Austin Dillon and Kyle Busch, as on the next restart, they tried to work together. Kyle Busch in that inside row faded a little bit. You saw Austin Dillon just got really loose, and then you see here Austin Dillon just gets turned. Big crash. That was the big one in the Daytona 500 with 2 laps to go. That was the first green-white checkered attempt, I believe, the first overtime attempt. We saw the carnage. Just really disappointing that all kind of just fell apart for everybody at the Chevrolet camp, at the RCR camp at least. William Byron, obviously, who was helping those guys, was helping Austin Dillon and Kyle Busch, obviously got caught up in the crash, just really hurt them. That caution with Daniel Suarez really tightened things up and really hurt their chances of winning. I'm not saying they were going to win it, but man, those guys seemed like they had it made. Kyle Busch leading, Austin Dillon, teammate second, and William Byron defending off those Fords in third. That was like perfect for Kyle Busch to win the Daytona 500. And like I said, just heartbreaking situation for that. If you're a Kyle Busch fan, you're throwing up. You're throwing up inside, and I know I am, because I feel it. It's a painful loss. Like I said, Daytona, it's a beautiful place. It's a great event, but it knows how to break some hearts, and it did do that tonight, obviously. With under 10 laps to go, we also had Brad Keselowski leading the race, doing a great job working with his teammate, or I guess, his driver, Chris Buescher. They were trying to work it out, but Austin Dillon and Kyle Busch just were fast. They flew right by him and weren't able to stop him. Brad Keselowski and Chris Buescher were not able to stop him. And then obviously Brad Keselowski ended up getting caught in that wreck on the final lap of the Daytona 500. So just really unfortunate for all 3 of those guys. And the storylines continue for them. Brad Keselowski, champion driver, really good. I mean, a really solid super speedway racers. Won at Talladega before. Won the Daytona summer race a few times. Really talented drivers at these types of racetracks. Never won the Daytona 500 for your champion of Brad Keselowski. And then, like I said, Kyle Busch, obviously, he has gone 18 attempts in the Daytona 500, never got a win. He's finished second before. He came close to today, led late today, has led late in the Daytona 500 many a years now, and just can't quite get that checker flag. So the storylines will continue into his 19th attempt next year. Will he be able to get that Daytona 500? Let's talk about the top 10 just real quick. I usually go through the top 10. I probably won't break down every driver on this list, but I do want to go through a few of them. Obviously, Ricky Stenhouse, your winner. Joey Logano, I already touched on him. Christopher Bell, who really wasn't in the race today, didn't have a good handling race car, wasn't up front for most of the events, but with those wrecks at the end, that put him right in prime position to go up there and get a third place finish. So a decent start to the season for Christopher Bell, finishing third. He actually said in his post-race interview he didn't think he was going to be able to get up to third with the way the car was handling. So it was exciting to see him. Obviously a great start for him. He was on fire at the end of last year. Starts out this year with a top 3 finish. Not a bad start to the year. Take those points. We'll go on to California next week for Christopher Bell. Chris Buescher, like I said, was doing a great job working with Brad Keselowski. Stayed up there all day. Was trying to maneuver through the race, get to the end. He was able to do that. Unable to get the victory tonight, but Chris Buescher with a solid 4th place finish. That'll be exciting to see how that Brad Keselowski team will be able to work. RFK will be able to run for the rest of the season. Already a decent start for Chris Buescher, finishing 4th. Be interesting to see how he can continue. He got that win last year at Bristol. Want to watch what he can do this season going into week 2 next week. We had Alex Bowman actually sneak up there and get a 5th place finish. His car was obviously not handling very well at all at the beginning of the race. You saw that. He faded back a little bit, started on the front row. He was really bad in the dual races on Thursday, and then they fixed it a little bit, fixed up the race car. You see here, got a solid 5th place finish. AJ Allmendinger actually came all the way up to finish 6th. He was laps down at one point. Daniel Suarez, after his incident, was able to come up and finish 7th. Ryan Blaney, I'm not sure how he was in the crash, but somehow was deemed it's not in the crash, so therefore he finishes 8th. They might change that, I'm not sure, but right now, as of 8:15 Eastern time, he is still 8th place on the leaderboard. Ross Chastain finishing 9th, and then Riley Herbst was multiple laps, or was a lap down at one point as well, ended up finishing in the 10th position and got a top 10 position. So Kyle Busch obviously was deemed in the wreck. There was a few, I heard a few things online. Why was Kyle Busch scored 19th? It's because he was deemed in the crash, I think, so he was deemed to not maintain speed. But if you look at some of the guys in front of him, they were also in the wreck. I don't know how they were able to maintain speed. So we might see a bit of shuffling of the finishing order. I'm not sure if this is the official results. This is what's on NASCAR's website. This is what's online. So I'm assuming this is how it is. But these results might change after the video is uploaded. So please keep an eye out for that, because I don't know if that's 100% right. It doesn't seem right anyway. I'll need an explanation on that. But that is it. That is the Daytona 500, the 65th Daytona 500. I thought it was a good race. I thought we had a great flow of the race. The start of the race was a lot of fun to watch, with the cars double file racing for the lead. And no big wrecks till the end. I mean, we had a very clean race, a very well-paced race. We had no cautions for almost the halfway point of the race. It might have went over the halfway point of the race when, I think it was lap 118 or something like that. We had our first caution that was not a stage break, and that was for Tyler Riddick, who had a terrible handling car, had a lot of issues with his car, went and slammed into the wall. That was the first caution. So a very well-paced race. The pre-race was absolutely incredible. Seeing those old-school drivers, Richard Petty, Bill Elliott, and multiple other very successful drivers, Kevin Harvick, give the command. That was awesome. Obviously, the president of NASCAR addressing the fans before, that was cool to see as well. Just really a great day overall by Daytona. I think Daytona Speedway, obviously NASCAR did a great job promoting the event. It felt really special. This Daytona 500 did, so that's good to see. The only complaint I might have was the Fox broadcast at the beginning had a whole lot of commercial breaks. I saw other people noticing that as well. I think they were doing that to try to get all those commercials. And they were quick commercial breaks, by the way, quicker than usual. But I think they were doing that to try to get all the commercials out, so they didn't have to play them at the end of the race. Because if you saw in the last quarter or more of that race, we did not get, I don't know if we got any full screen commercials. So that was obviously nice. But that's it. That's all there is to talk about. Please tune in next week for the California race review. Obviously, like and subscribe if you like the video. But like I said, we're going to the final race at the 2-mile configuration in California next week. So please follow my race review and look out for that next week. It's going to be great. We're excited. We're back. NASCAR is back. And we have a great season ahead of us this year. So, of course, about Kyle Busch not winning this year's Daytona 500, let's get rowdy.